Wes Goldberg. Note off the top, people watching on YouTube, and if you're listening, audio quality might be a little bit different. I am on the road right now. I am in New York City. So my microphone right now is my AirPods. So if things sound a little bit off, that's why.
That's why. Yep.
That's why. Wes. This isn't so much a cold open question as a cold open celebration. I think Draymond Green cooking Rudy Gobert and then hitting him with the go to sleep and the night night and just the whole energy of how he crossed over, like he was like, I'm absolutely gonna blow by you and dunk energy on Rudy Gobert at the end of that Warriors Jazz game, or Warriors Wolves game, excuse me. That's gonna be one of the top 10 things I think I remember this NBA season when it's all said and done, because it was just so funny, and clearly Draymond was like just ready to eat that. Like he was just so excited when he realized, hey, I have Rudy one on one and I'm just gonna go. I just loved everything about the tension of that moment.
I almost fell out of my chair when
So
I
funny.
saw that happen. I mean, not only was it funny, but it was mean, right? Like it was
Yeah.
so ruthlessly mean by Draymond Green, who I don't know the last time that he had a dunk quite like that. He's had 3 dunks all of this season. He had 7 all of last season. Like this is not a guy who dunks a lot. And so when he was running up the court, I was expecting him to find like a shooter in the corner to kick it out to or something, like put pressure on the defense, draw Rudy Gobert in a bad direction, and then, take advantage and kick it out to an open guy. And he was like, nope, nope. I was like, is he going to go all the way with this thing? And he did. And then he hit him with the night afterwards, which I love. Yeah, that was like classic Warriors stuff. And it was like a meanness of Draymond Green reserved only for Rudy Gobert, who obviously they've had money, their battles in the past, and it was really cool because the Warriors have had their advantages over Rudy Gobert, whether it was with the Jazz or the Timberwolves in the past, mostly obviously with the Jazz. So to see them kind of go back into that mode with Draymond at the 5, and then see Draymond kind of uncork that vintage Draymond kind of thing, was kind of like this neat little step into a time machine for a little bit. And then he kind of brings you back into the modern times with copying Steph's more recent night Selly. So I don't know, it was a really cool moment.
I also just don't think I've ever seen Draymond dribble like that.
Yeah.
It was like LeBron, almost when LeBron like loads up and he's either going to take the pull up step back 3 or he's going to drive and just absolutely yam on someone in the lane. That's just like that's like the isolation score signal that they're about to attack and cook you dribble. And I've never in my life seen Draymond Green do that. And then you saw Rudy Gobert, who, like, look, when you think about what you want about Gobert, a lot of people in the league, a lot of fans aren't the biggest fans. He's a very accomplished, high-end defensive player who when he struggles in isolation, it's like the elite scorers in the league, it feels like. And then Draymond did that with the little subtle little screen by Steph. Steph did a very good job, I would say, of creating the opening. He set like a very quick pick that got Jaden McDaniels out of the way and in a weird spot. And Rudy wasn't. If he plowed over Steph, it would have been a foul. So like assist from Steph in setting up this whole moment too.
No doubt. I mean, look, Rudy Gobert is still the reigning defensive player of the year. I think we tend to forget that. But he won the award last year. Like, this is a guy who has multiples of these awards and recently. But let's also not like act like the element of surprise was definitely helping Draymond Green. Because I think as surprised as we were that he took that thing all the way to the bucket, I think Rudy Gobert might have been the most surprised that he went all the way to the rack with that one. But look, that's what a grudge can inspire. And that's when the NBA is at its best, is when the grudges are playing out in real time on the court between those lines for all of us to consume, and not just on social media or on Twitter or something, where it does feel like it's big and loud and happening, but very few people are actually caring about that stuff. When it's actually happening on TV live in front of you, and you're combining the grudges with the athletic feats that these guys could accomplish, that's when the NBA is literally at its best. And that was a fun game.
Excited. I haven't seen if Draymond's posted a podcast yet, but I'm sure it'll be an all-timer. All right, on today's show, we've got 2 injuries to react to. That's Franz Wagner's torn oblique and Brandon Ingram's ankle injury. And we're going to talk about Cavs Heat from Sunday and what, if anything, that game taught us about those two teams that Wes and I are very close to. That's coming up today on the Just Basketball Show. What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Just Basketball Show. I'm Chris Manning. That is Wes Goldberg. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, review on your podcast platform of choice or on YouTube. 5-star reviews only, please and thank you. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, X, every social media platform you can find the show on. If you want to check out our friends, are really the mothership of the Just Sports Network, Just Baseball Show. Now's a good time to do it because Juan Soto just signed for a godly amount of money, and they've done a lot of great content on that, including Peter Apple reacting as a Yankees fan reacting on TikTok, which was good content from Peter. All right, Wes, you got our first sponsor today. That's BetMGM.
That's right. Today's episode is brought to you by BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code JustBasketball and you'll get up to $1,500 in a first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android. Sign up using the code JustBasketball. Deposit at least $10. Place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure that you use the bonus code JustBasketball when you sign up. We're going to try to speed this one. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older to wager. Terms and conditions apply.
Wes, on that one, you were close to when it's the sped up version on a pre-roll. You're getting very good at that, so I love that from you.
Can I ask you one Juan Soto thing before we get to our next sponsor?
Yeah, please, absolutely.
So obviously we can't do this in the NBA where there's a salary cap. There's no salary cap in Major League Baseball. But if somebody in the NBA were to get the Juan Soto contract, $700 million over 15 years, you could pick anybody to give it to. Who deserves that contract the most right now?
I mean, I think the easy answer would be to say Wembanyama because you're just betting on that. But I think I would have just a little bit of fear of the body. It's just 15 years for a big man is just, it's dicey. It's hard. I mean, we're kind of, Wes, in some ways spoiled in thinking about how long guys last because LeBron, KD, Curry, these guys lasting into as old as they are in some ways is surprising.
Yeah, Victor Wembanyama is 20, so it sounds nuts to start talking about Victor Wembanyama when he starts aging, but a 15-year contract takes him to age 35. I have no idea. Yeah. And so I had the same thought with Wemby.
My brain went to Shea, and then he'd be 41 at the end of that contract.
Yeah, he's the same age as Juan Soto is now. I mean, that's how nuts it is, but baseball's a little bit different.
Tatum would be 41. Is the answer nobody, if I'm being honest with you? If I'm being entirely... I mean, Wes, not to be I'm going to sound like a boomer here. That contract is too big. That contract makes no economic sense when we really get down to it. It really is insane, considering what baseball is popularity-wise compared to the other sports. That contract is bananas, and I don't really know how you even do anything with that. It's kind of crazy.
I'm sure our Just Baseball guys will know. We can dig in this way more, but this one just feels from the outside in, just the Mets trying to get out from being the little brother of the Yankees, right? The Yankees can afford this because of the biggest brand in sports in the world. The Mets are not that, but they're certainly a big brand. So this is just sort of them trying to get one over the Yankees. No, I think two names that came to... Well, the first one was, is Nikola Jokic the obvious answer here no matter what? Where that's so much money that you almost convince him to stay in America for that long? Or
he'd be 44 years old at the end of that contract.
It's not like he needs to be more athletic than he is
also
now.
Just... I don't think Jokic is playing past 36. I think Jokic is...
If there's $500 million still left on his contract, maybe he stays. That's the answer. The Nuggets would literally be paying for him to stay here. It's hey, just put the horses off for another 7 years, Jokic.
Jokic, think about all the horses you can buy with this money. I think
you could buy every horse on the planet.
Yeah, you could just be the horse. You could just be the horse guy. The other thing that comes to mind as we're talking about this is should it be you find whoever the best 16-year-old is right now, and you say, hey, 15 years. And you're really projecting, but it's do you just sign Cooper Flagg as he comes to college to that contract and just bet on long and the money just gets but then you structure it. You try to structure it so the deal's less money up front, and then by the time they're at their peak and reaches max fund, then you'd have to do some creative accounting. I think to make this work.
So Bryce James.
Sure.
No.
Sure. I mean,
no. I think you might have already
Gilbert Arenas' kid that's number 6 in his class or something.
you might have already said the name. Like Jason Tatum feels like a player who's going to age really well, and
Yeah.
as more and more advances in medicine, maybe doing what LeBron's doing at 40 seems impossible for a lot of players, but being a good player at that age seems good. But like the thing is, like, is Tatum really even? I mean, he's really good. I don't know that I would give him like I don't know that I would make him the highest paid player per year, even though technically I think this next contract will make him that until somebody else sends in a contract extension. But Anthony Edwards, his name should at least be involved in this. And if this 3-point shot, this pull up three is for real, then he's going to age pretty well. So maybe that's a guy too. Anyway, just wanted to throw that out.
Wes, I mean, look, this is a really good segment, Wes, that we're pulling on for YouTube. On the spot, you came up with something I think quite good. My official answer would just be Wembanyama, if I'm being honest. I think Wembanyama would be my Juan Soto. I would just say F it,
Just
roll in
do
the
it.
dice, and just like the sky is this, like there's limitless potential with that
there's
guy.
a certain amount of that's baked into a 15-year contract, including Juan Soto's contract, right? Like him being 41 is a significant thing even in Major League Baseball. So there's a certain amount
No
of just,
deferred
like,
money.
what the hell with
No
it baked
deferred
into
money.
this.
Yeah, no deferred money, and he got a
Yeah.
$75 million bonus. Is the other thing,
Yeah,
crazy.
it's like he doesn't need the bonus. Like who's the bonus is for his agent? Like I don't know who's the bonus for.
The 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 bonus is just so you definitely pay more than the Yankees is like really what that feels
Mm-hmm.
like. It's like if all things are equal and someone offers you $75 million more, you're probably just taking the $75 million would be how I'd look at it.
You gotta play for the Mets though.
Dude, honestly, one of my friends from college, Chris Longo, shout out, is a Mets fan involved on the back end of some just sports stuff.
Poor guy.
If I'm picking a New York team, I mean, he's a Jets and Mets fan. He's absolutely just ravaged by sports depression. Um, I would. You're playing for the Mets. The check clears. You're playing with Lindor. You're still in New York City. You have so much money that like 5 generations of your family with smart investing is like your family is now just like generationally set.
Oh yeah, I get it. But you would have been the same way playing for the Yankees. I don't know. We don't have to do this. That's a just baseball conversation. Sorry, I got us.
I mean, no. This is good because I do think it's like there's not the thing about baseball is Juan Soto will like age into still being able to hit, and like it's hard to find a skill that would be that valuable when you hit 40. Like LeBron is an anomaly in how good he is at 40. Like
Yeah,
if
if you could go
Tatum,
back in time until I guess Cleveland 15 years ago, would you just give LeBron $1 billion for the next
yes,
15
you
years?
do, you do,
In
and you don't even
hindsight,
think about it.
obviously you do that, right? Like there's no
Yeah.
question you would have done that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's the pick the 20-year-old that's going to be the best and last you 15 years, and if there's
Mhm.
5 bad years in the back end and you win 3 titles, then F it, it's worth it. All right, also got to say about our friends at Homage. Homage is the ultra comfortable specialty apparel company with NBA and WNBA licenses. It uses vintage inspired designs to pay homage to the greatest stories, traditions, and figures across sports, music, and pop culture. Use our link below, make your purchase, and support the Just Basketball show. They have a great starter collection that I am absolutely in love with. I have a Browns coaches starter jacket that is my go-to NFL Sunday fit. That is great. I have a Guardians jacket that I'll be wearing when Shane Bieber's pitching into October next year. But go find all the great stuff. Really going to be pullovers for some franchises right now, so check that out. Wes, let's go to around the injuries. Franz Wagner is the one that I think is the bigger short-term deal. The Brandon Ingram one, I think, raises more existential questions about what a team's going to do. I think the bummer about the Wagner injury to me is that Paolo's also out and is still going to be out for a bit. The Magic have been the third best team in the East this year record-wise, or a game and a half up on the Knicks. 3 games up on the Miami Heat. We're going to talk about later when we talk a little bit about Cavs Heat. They were in a really strong position to get a top 3 seed in the East, and this is just the kind of injury that could knock them back to having to chase 3 down the stretch in some way. This just theoretically could put them at a disadvantage in what I think is going to be a tightly contested behind Cleveland, behind Boston rung of the East. It also is denying them a guy who I think was an all-star, as we won it last week. I think is one of the favorites, if not the favorite, most improved player of the year. This is just another case of the Magic season getting kind of derailed by unfortunate injuries. And I just candidly don't know how they're going to score the basketball with him and Paolo out. This team is going to be incredibly hard to watch without the only 2 guys on their team that I really trust to run an offense in 2024.
Yeah, right. I mean, they go down Paolo Banchero when we were asking these same questions, and then Franz Wagner stepped up and became that all-star caliber guy to run their offense, and Orlando just kept on winning games, right? They won 12 out of 13. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're 17-9 at third place in the Eastern Conference right now. And then they did beat the Phoenix Suns on Sunday without Franz and obviously without Paolo Banchero. Now, granted, no Kevin Durant, no Jusuf Nurkic, not exactly the same Phoenix Suns team, but it's still a win when you're down your two best players also. And look, this is going like Paolo's injury tested Franz Wagner. This injury is going to test the limits of Jalen Suggs' game. He took the most shot attempts for Orlando on Sunday against Phoenix with 18. He scores 26 points. He's huge in that fourth quarter for them. Gets to the free throw line for 6 for 7 from the free throw line. So he's playing physical. He's being aggressive. He took 10 3-pointers in that game. We have seen Suggs' shooting and his offense kind of slowly get better throughout his career, but this feels like an ultimate stress test that's really going to push the limits of Jalen Suggs' offensive game. And he's probably going to average the most attempts on the team while Paolo and Franz are out. It'll be really interesting to see how it works. Look, they have a pretty nice cushion in the Eastern Conference right now. They are 2.5 games, or I'm sorry, a game and a half over New York in that third spot. They're 3 games behind Boston in that 2 spot. So it feels like Orlando, they still have like 4 games before 4 losses before they even start talking about the play-in tournament mix. So, Paolo gave an interview a few weeks back saying that he's targeting maybe Christmas to come back. So there's going to be a period where they'll probably have Paolo back before they get Franz back. So they really, the Magic, all they really have to do here is just, stay 500 between now and Paolo's return, for a couple of weeks here. And very fortunate that the NBA kind of has this built-in bye week right now because of the NBA Cup. So, a lot of teams have some days off here. That's going to help them bide some time here too. So, yeah, I think Jalen Suggs is going to be immensely important to Orlando going forward for these next couple of games. All they have to do is kind of stay at water level for now until they get Paolo back, and then Franz will come back, and then they'll be whole.
What's the gift comp for getting Paolo back for Christmas? Like what's the gift comp? Is it like getting a bottle of Pappy for Christmas? Is it getting like a PS5 and a bunch of games? Like what's the comp?
It's a little bit like finding an old bottle of bourbon that you forgot about.
Yeah.
It's like I had this, I forgot I had it, and boy, does my holiday season look a lot different now that I found this. And so maybe not like the Pappy, because I can't imagine you're forgetting that you have that bottle of Pappy. But maybe it's like a nice little, like a bottle of like Johnny Walker Blue that you had in the back of the bar that somebody gifted you a couple of Christmases back, and you're like, oh wait, I can make some cool cocktails with this. Let's go. And maybe it's something like that.
Yeah, I think it's getting that really expensive bottle of bourbon for Christmas as a gift because you're going to use it. It's going to dull your pain a little bit. It's going to make some things go down a little bit. The pill like that and like the big rock are just going to in the middle of your bourbon are going to just make things just like it's going to burn a little bit. It's going to hurt. There's a reintegration process and stuff, but like getting him back so your offense isn't Jalen Suggs and shooters. That would be a huge win for Orlando. And to your point, I think it also helps Wes that we just don't think of the East as that good. Like, we'll get to Miami, and I know the Bucks are on a surge, but you get out of that top 6, and they're like, even if I like some of what Atlanta does, the Nets have been a very fun, feisty story this year. Indiana has been, I think, frankly, we're probably due to do a what the fuck is wrong with the Pacers episode maybe next week. That feels like something we should get into because they've just been not particularly good. There's not that many good teams in the East.
Yeah,
they're just not. And that also, this is the West. This would be a much bigger deal.
For sure. I'm also looking at their schedule here between now and the end of the month. They play Miami, Boston, Miami, and New York. Those are the next 4 games. That's a rough stretch. Like they could go 0-4. I'm saying that they're probably going to win at least one of those Miami games just because I said that. But they could easily go 0-4 here. But like you said, in the East, it's not the end of the world. Like you could drop 4 straight games. Then they play Brooklyn on December 29th to close out the month. Maybe they have Paolo back by then. I mean, they have the Miami and the New York games are the 26th and the 27th. So they might have Paolo back for 1 or 2 of those games. Obviously, he's going to be working his way back. And then after that, though, you start the new year. Detroit, Toronto, Utah, 3 straight games, all very winnable. Like you can kind of just get right back on track, even if you go 0-4 over these next 4 games if you're them. So, yeah, it's a total bummer because Franz was playing so well, but it doesn't feel like it's the end of the world for the Magic either.
Are we so if is are we putting Darius Garland in Franz's place on the All Star team via injury? Is that how this works?
Yeah, is that what we ended up with? I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
let's
yeah
do it.
I think Darius Garland is our first All Star injury replacement. Congratulations to Darius Garland. All right, let's get into Brandon Ingram because Wes, I don't know if this is just my how my brain works and I'm just more of a pessimist or more an existential crisis person. I don't know what the point of this season is for the Pelicans anymore at this point. Like we have no idea when Zion's coming back. We have no clarity on and if or when he's going to play again this year or what that's even going to look like. You can't count on him anyway. Ingram not being gone for a long time, when he has been, to his credit, like I think a pretty good version of himself this year, and at least giving you something. You haven't had Murray. Like this team just perpetually feels rudderless, and it feels like next year, no matter what happens the rest of the way, I feel like next season it involves probably no Ingram, probably no Zion, and a new head coach, and you're trying to retool in some way. It just feels like this whole season has no point anymore for the Pelicans. I don't know what even you're supposed to do other than try to get Trey Murphy development, Herb Jones development, like flip CJ McCollum if you can. You know, Yves Missy, get him hit as many minutes as you can. Like the season, in terms of what it could have been and their potential, just feels gone. And I don't think there's any way for them to salvage this at this point. It's what it feels like to me.
Look, they're 5-20. It feels like this
They're
season has
they're
been
ass.
they've been bad all year, and so the point you're making is the right point, but it also like this isn't new, and just because they lose Brandon Ingram doesn't really change the fact that they have been bad all year anyway. Like this
You also
already
just can't
felt
trade Ingram is the problem. I think is
right,
that
and
it's like
so
you can't trade him now.
you can. So here's the. I think you could trade him potentially still, but treating him as an expiring contract. The reason that they've had a hard time trading Ingram right now is because no team wants to give him the extension. It's not that no team wants Brandon Ingram; they just don't want to deal with that whatever this next contract is going to be. Um, but maybe if there's a team out there that's trying to get off some long term salary, you could just give them a used Brandon Ingram on an expiring and say, "Here's Brandon Ingram. You can walk away from your long term contract and deal with Brandon Ingram in the summer if you want." Now, much easier said than done. I don't know what team that is. And then if you're the Pelicans, do you really want to be taking on more long term money that might be bad? Right? Like probably not. So whatever. This is shaping up to be a gap year for New Orleans. And so what do you do in a gap season, right? There's a difference between a gap season and a lost season. In a gap season, you just try to find something. Understanding that you're not competing for the playoffs, you're not a real contending team right now. What can you do for the rest of this regular season that helps set you up to have a better bounce back next season? Like what can you accomplish if you're the Pelicans? And if I'm them this week, that's all I'm asking myself in that front office, a sober look. What can we actually accomplish here? What can we walk away from this season with and feel good about? And I think number one, right off the bat, Yves Missy, you found a guy there. That guy's awesome at the basket. He's a real pick and roll lob threat. He's showing some flashes defensively. There's some interesting ball skills with him. He was one of my guys going into the draft. I really liked him at Baylor. I thought he had an NBA ready skill right now, which was just dunking, and that turns out to be true. So that's been helpful for them. Can you get more out of Herb Jones and Trey Murphy? That would be my next thing with them. Maybe you could trade CJ McCollum for a pick or whatever like that. But I would be tanking hard this year, trying to get the best pick possible in this upcoming draft and getting a real player out of that. A player who might, depending on what happens with Zion going forward, become the face of your franchise. That would be ideal here. But if not even for that, like, can we continue to groom Herb Jones? Can we continue to groom Trey Murphy III into legitimate, like, high-end role players who might even be able to do a little bit more for us offensively than we ever thought? We're already seeing some of those steps being made by Herb Jones and Trey Murphy the last couple of years, but continuing to test them and kind of push the limits of their skill level, that could pay dividends down the road, right? And so, yeah, if you're the Pelicans, it's all about development while you're tanking. You're kind of in that same position as the Washington Wizards, which sounds awful because the Pelicans did not think that they were Wizards-like coming into the season, but that's just sort of what happened.
This Pelicans roster does feel well suited to get an Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper and just try again. Like that's what it feels. That's what it feels like. I think in West, in another situation, if they didn't have A, their own pick next year, and B, didn't have the expirings, and C, have all the Bucks picks still, this would be a situation where I think you could see, okay, what do we trade Herb Jones for? Probably don't trade him and Murphy, but would you trade one of those guys? Does like a first from a contending team plus matching expiring salary or something, is that enough for Herb to get another pick? I don't think you need to do that here if you're them. I think there's guys I want gone. If you can get rid of McCollum and get something for him, great. I would, if you can, trade Ingram to a team that might want to re-sign him in the summer. There's not really anyone that's like totally off limits, but it would take a ton for me to say trade Herb Jones or trade a Trey Murphy. But like if someone wants Alvarado, flip Alvarado for some seconds for a team that needs backup point guard help or something. Then if you can't get the first pick, okay, fine. Would you be bummed to miss on a Cooper Flag? Probably. But if there's any team that knows that a number one pick isn't a guarantee to save your franchise, it's the Pelicans. You get an Ace Bailey, you get a Dylan Harper, guys that are scorers, that are wings, that fit your this weird switchy roster, and you need an engine. They feel like teams that could talk themselves into saying, okay, we moved on from the Zion Ingram era. We got Ace Bailey, we got Dylan Harper. We still have Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. We really believe in those guys. We have Missy, who we like. Probably get a new offensive-minded developmental head coach, and let's hit the ground running. Like that feels like a pivot to your mention of a gap year.
Yeah, so
this feels like a good pivot.
I don't like they do have sort of a get out of jail free card here. You can walk away from Brandon Ingram's contract, just not re-sign him if you want this summer. You can also walk away from Zion Williamson's contract and really reset your books. I
think they should too. I really think they should. I'm there. So I'm there with it. I don't want to be in the Zion business if I'm them. So I'm also just to West to say, I'm going to be on the record with this now. I said this as an editor last time. Zion to the Miami Heat is my favorite Zion fit possible because it is break. It is like the most pressure.
Don't do that.
And you know how many downloads you're getting on Locked On Heat with Zion Williamson in your titles? I'm sure you're like, it'd be good. It'd be good for business. Is all I'm saying. That's like this. He's sinking or swimming.
Not everything's about money, Chris. Sometimes you got to think about your own well-being. Okay. Sometimes you got to think about your own personal well-being.
That's what the money is for. Shout out Don Draper. Right.
Yeah. Look, I would be if I'm the Pelicans also trying to trade. You've got to try to find a deal for CJ McCollum. You need to find a way to alleviate your cap situation that allows you at least some flexibility to deal with Zion and Brandon Ingram the way that you would want to and not just have it come down to money. The other problem that's happening with New Orleans right now, and while you and I might agree that, hey, maybe you just get off of the Zion contract, get off of Brandon Ingram, start this whole thing over, is that they're such a small market. When we talk about like, hey, Zion Williamson's great for Locked On Heat numbers, he's even better for the New Orleans Pelicans business, right? Like this is a team that's barely making money already. As an NBA team. Like no team makes less money than the New Orleans Pelicans does. I don't know that they can afford to do the hard reset here. But you also look at this roster and you have a real like honest look at things. And people the luck this year for the Pelicans has been so bad. And no doubt it has been. But is any of this really new either? Like this is a team that's been hurt all the time for the last 3 years. Like do you really see this getting any better? And so if you're the Pelicans and you're the ownership, and you're all these people, and you understand, look, you're asking, can we afford to take this huge step back? I would ask you, can you afford not to? Can you really afford to just keep doing this over and over and over again? Like literally afford it from a business sense. We're even getting away from the basketball part of this. Like this is going to get so stale for your fans at some point that the return on investment of Zion Williamson is not going to be what it used to be anymore. And all of a sudden you're going to get stuck with no real way to improve your business, especially if you're going to, try to just re-up all these guys. If you bring back Brandon Ingram for whatever reason, like all this stuff, like you're just sort of stuck in where you are now. So yeah, I would be thinking seriously about what you want to do with those guys. I'd also make everybody available, man. Like I like Trey Murphy. I like Herb Jones. Everybody's available. If you're the Oklahoma City Thunder, would you not throw two first-round picks at the Pelicans for Herb Jones or Trey Murphy?
I think every team in the league should be calling about Herb.
If you're San Antonio, like those guys fit, like your new defensive identity, like just start throwing picks at them. DeJounte Murray, I know we just got there. Trade him too. There's a lot of teams that could be in need of some point guard help here. We pitched Julius Randle from Minnesota for DeJounte Murray trade last week. Like maybe that's something like that might work. So I would make everybody available. Like to me, there's nobody that's untouchable on the Pelicans roster at all.
Yeah, I think I get close. I think the price for Herb and Trey would just be a little bit higher. Like McCollum, I just want to
Hmm.
dump. I want out. Herb Jones is on a sub mid level exception
They're on great
contract.
contracts. Yeah.
Like that. Like if I'm the Cavs, for instance, I'm like, okay, can I patch together like Jalen Tyson and Niang's money or something, or Levert's expiring and like one first you can trade? You should say no to that. I think if you're New Orleans, I think you should think like Tyson's kind of been interesting, but it's just like a first
Would
and
you
like
do?
I
Would you
mean,
do Herb Jones and Trey Murphy
oh
to
boy,
Golden State for Jonathan Kuminga and just get a young guy?
yeah, I think I would, and maybe like some seconds in there probably.
Yeah, and I think you probably like need D'Anthony Melton's expiring contract in there to make the money
Yeah,
work, something like
I would
that. Yeah,
absolutely. It's not the trade that I think the Warriors seem to want.
right.
But it'd be a damn good trade.
I love that for the Warriors. You get two wings in there who could play off of Steph and Draymond. That makes a lot. It space the floor. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at like the Bucks cap sheet now, and it's like, okay, I can't
Yeah,
even
they don't.
find anything. Like, what would it take? What do you think it would take to dump like Pat Connaughton? Like, what do you need to attach to Pat
The
Connaughton
the
and
picks
Bo
that New
James'
Orleans
salary?
already has.
Yeah, that's right. To get Herb Jones, that's what you
Right.
need. It's just like the firstborn child of Giannis's like next kid has like if he has a kid that makes the NBA, his draft rights just immediately go to the Pelicans. That's
Is
how
there
this
a
will work.
CJ? Is there a CJ McCollum spot that makes any sense?
Let me look
Like,
at let's look at the league.
okay,
I mean,
well, hold on, hold on.
Orlando. Orlando.
Orlando. I think Orlando makes a
Yeah.
little bit of sense there.
The challenge I think with McCollum is he's just making so much money for what he
I know.
is, and I like if he had been if we didn't have the aprons, Wes, I think he would be more tradable than he is. But I think because of the aprons,
Yeah.
a guy who's something of an older specialist at this point,
Hmm.
for this year and next, is just that's
The
tough.
problem
That's
is that contract is really tough next year too. I mean, if he was an expiring, you could talk yourself into it. If you're Orlando, it'd be perfect. Like, hey, we're overpaying him for this year, but we haven't paid our young guys yet. But still, like you could argue if you're Orlando, 2 years, maybe a year and a half, that's not that bad for us.
the
But
the
it's hard
challenge
to
for
make the
Orlando.
money work.
Yeah, the money's the biggest thing. Their biggest salary on the books this year is Jonathan Isaac at $25 million. I don't think they'd want to trade Isaac for that. I wouldn't really want to be giving up like Suggs or Anthony
Mm-mm.
Black, and those guys are on really low salary figures anyway. You'd have it just the salary isn't there. I'm trying to think, is there another team even that I'm like that's a good McCollum team if you're trading? Because if it was like a buyout, I'd be like, you know what, the Pistons. Maybe he just goes to the Pistons. He's a six man on the Pistons. They don't really have a salaries that I want to trade for him.
Yeah, it's hard to find a team. It's really hard.
He feels like a buyout guy, if I'm being honest. Like,
It's hard to buy him out with a whole year left on his contract. I
oh,
just
and he
don't know
shouldn't
what.
do it. Yeah, unless
Right.
you're giving him a bunch of that money to go home, then
Right.
I don't want to do it. And why would he? So there's that New Orleans weird spot. We'll check on them again at some point, I'm sure. Maybe when Zion comes back, we'll see what that looks like. I think let's actually I'm gonna put this on our mental calendar. If and when Zion comes back, I think the first 10 games he plays coming back, sample size him, check in with him in that real time. What did he look like? What did he do well? What did he not do well? Where are we at on him after he comes back and plays 10 games?
Hmm.
And just I want to see how he looks. I want to talk about it fairly, but I think we need to. He's going to be due a look in that sense when he comes back. All right, last thing we're going to hit on today is Cavs Heat and what we saw in that game from Sunday. But first, got to tell you about eBay. eBay has been a fantastic partner for our podcast network this year, partnering with Just Baseball on 3 incredible events from spring training to the All-Star game to Wild Card Weekend. And we want to shout out their new Game Time Gets collection along with career benchmarks, league-wide records, and single-game achievements that will trigger them to drop. That is available at ebay.com/game time gets. They have a bunch of great milestones pending right now. Jokic, 7,500 rebounds for his career. Paul George hitting 30 in a game this year. Mitchell, 35 in a game this year. It was a thing that came and went and was sold, which is pretty cool. They have WNBA when that's in season. There's so many great things at ebay.com/game time get. So check them out. Your favorite players, men's and women, are going to be featured on there. So check them out. Again, that's ebay.com/game time gets. And by the way, betting starts at 24 cents in each one of those as an homage to basketball's 24-second shot clock. West Cavs Heat, you were in the building. I watched at home. Two things stand out to me. Number one, Tyler Hero remains just an absolute heater, the best player on the floor for much of that game, scored a bunch. Evan Mobley's injury for the Cavs, which doesn't seem like it's serious, but when they went with Niang and LeVert to start the second half, and Dean Wade was a small ball five, that second half performance from the Cavs told you everything you need to know about how vital Evan Mobley is and how good he is, I think, for that team. Miami got hot. Hero again was great, but I think the Mobley injury tells you how irreplaceable Mobley is. But what stood out to you from that night?
Yeah, besides the Mobley injury, which definitely impacted the game there, the Heat have gotten some injury luck during this 3-game win streak. It's their first and longest 3-game win streak of the season. Obviously, the Mobley being out in that second half impacted that Cavs game. They also played the Phoenix Suns without Kevin Durant and Yusuf Nurkic, and then they beat the Lakers with the first game of this win streak. But they've been reeling, and it's been crazy for them. But a 3-game win streak is still a 3-game win streak. The Heat took care of business. These are good, solid wins, and they are starting to finally round into form here. The Miami Heat are. I said about a week ago when things looked bad that I believed that the best basketball was still ahead for the Miami Heat, and I didn't think it would be this quick. But they have really found something. Their starting five: Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Haywood Highsmith, and Bam Adebayo, is outscoring opponents by 20 points per 100 possessions right now. Their defensive rating is at 104. Their offensive rating is bananas right now. Some of that stuff is going to come back to earth. There's definitely some three-point shooting luck baked into this, at least just for them. They're making a crazy amount of their tightly contested threes right now. But look, when you have shot makers like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson in that starting lineup, you're going to make a lot of tough looks. And Tyler Hero has emerged as, by the numbers, the second best three-point shooter in the league right now, behind only Anthony Edwards. And there's another guy in Denver shooting 50% from three. Like, you can, like, by the numbers, you could argue the three best three-point shooters in the league this year, Chris, have been Anthony Edwards, Tyler Hero, and Nikola Jokic.
Bananas.
Like, what a weird NBA season.
Bananas.
Like,
yeah, bizarre. Bizarre.
But Hero being part of that conversation, now he's doubled up the volume of Nikola Jokic. He's very close to what Anthony Edwards is, and the only reason Edwards is ahead of him, and I haven't even checked this morning, Hero might be ahead of Edwards, but they're basically like within percentage points of each other in terms of efficiency. And his pull-up stuff is ridiculous, right? Like, you go over the course of Tyler Hero's career, his catch and shoot numbers, his pull-up three-point shooter numbers have been up there in terms of efficiency with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. Like, he's literally been as good as them, but on a much smaller volume. And my question with Tyler Hero, and the Heat always asked him this the same way, is what would happen if we just increased the volume to Steph and Klay Thompson-like levels? Like, would the efficiency follow, or would the efficiency dip with more volume? And they have learned this year, nope, the efficiency sticks. And if anything, you get Tyler Hero in a rhythm, and the efficiency is even better. And he has been downright Steph-like in some of these games. Like, some of these, he started one third quarter 7 of 7 from 3-point range a couple of nights ago against the Lakers. He goes 4 for 4 against your Cavs in the third quarter from 3-point range. I mean, this guy it goes on these heat checks that are just amazing, and he can swing a game in a quarter when he does that. So you combine him with the spacing of Duncan Robinson. Bam and Jimmy are able to play in more space than they've ever had. You've got Terry Rozier coming off the bench as opposed to starting now, which was the big change that Eric Spoelstra made. He's really thriving in that role. You have a Haywood Highsmith at the 4, playing over Nikola Jovic, who started the year for Miami at that 4 spot. Highsmith has just been better. He's a zero maintenance guy, does not need the ball, can just hit open threes, play great defense. That's all he needs to do. And then you have Bam starting to find his shooting touch that seemed lost at the start of the year through like the first 15 games. And it's not a coincidence that this 3-game win streak has coincided with Miami getting, for the first time in what feels like more than a year, like even going back to last year, because Jimmy and Tyler missed so much time, like the first time in a really long time that we've had a sustained amount of games here where Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo are all playing well at the same time. For a core that's been together now for 6 years, it feels like we haven't gotten that very much at all during the 6-year stretch. And Tyler's never been better. Bam, I think, is at the peak of his powers, even though he started the year in a shooting slump. Jimmy Butler is 35 years old and showing his age, but he's still capable. So, yeah, you get those three guys playing together at a high level at the same time. I think the Miami Heat could be potentially dangerous.
Look, I text you this. I can't quit my fear of the Heat if I'm a team in the East. Like, that's still the team in the first round. If I'm looking at the teams like 5 through 9 or 10, that's absolutely the team I want no part of in run one or even run two. Just because they have the best coach in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Butler is a pain in the ass to play against the playoffs. Bam is one of the best 5 defenders on the planet, and Hero's playing the way he is. I think this also, Wes, made me think about the Heat in a big picture way of, okay, where is this going in terms of how do they build this roster? I've always felt, based on their interest, in Donovan Mitchell, the Giannis part of it, if they're kind of maybe interest in him, which I think most teams would be. It felt like at some point Jimmy was going to leave, whether like on good terms or in a very Jimmy way. And the idea was, okay, what do we do to bring in a second star to play with Bam? Who is a star? Who is a top 20 guy in the league? Tyler Hero is not going to make me change that course, but it does make me feel like they have more there to build with than I thought. If you keep Hero around and you don't use him as a trade chip to do something, and I don't think you'd want to, use your other salaries, other younger guys, I think Hero can be a really additive piece for whatever thing they pivot to next. He's still young. Bam is, in his peak of his powers, but on the right side of the age curve still. You got a 24-year-old Tyler Hero, born in 2000. You got time for him to grow into his prime. I think even beyond this year, this is the kind of season that would make me optimistic about the Heat as a team that a year from now, when the next star does wiggle loose, I kind of hate that I'm taking there to some degree, but I think for them, I don't think they're a target contender this year, but their path to being at the top of the East again, it's more open going forward than I thought, I think in part because I think Hero's been that damn interesting this year.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler at 35 years old is really the only reason why it feels like the window has closed on this team. And Jimmy Butler's window might have closed because I just don't know what's going to happen with his salary. Does he opt out next year? Did he resign him? Like, that's a whole other kind of thing that we can talk about at a different point, I suppose. But yes, Tyler Hero's 24. Bam is 27. Like, besides Jimmy, this team's window is wide open. And it's weirdly a young team. It's a young team built through the draft. And my point all along with Tyler Hero is people ask, is he just on a heater? Like, is he just playing really well? I'm like, no. Look at his shot chart. It's different. Like, my point about the reason I bring up his three-point shooting numbers in the past is to emphasize that this is sustainable. This is who this guy is. He is a top 1% in the league three-point shooter. He is going to shoot 40% from three-point range this year. Plus. Like, this is it. And he has taken, I think, 17 mid-range shots all season long. Like, this is a guy through the course of his career would dribble into these long twos. He wanted to kind of be a hooper in that way. That's sort of how he fashioned his game. And the Heat have been pleading with him, stop taking these long twos, just take threes. Take these catch and shoot threes, be quick with the decisions, and then that stuff's going to open up your game at the basket. His driving this season has never been better. He's finding small creases, in part because teams are closing out so hard on him now. It's a red alarm fire every time Tyler Hero catches the ball beyond the three-point arc now, and opponents have to close out so aggressively on him that the drive now becomes available in a way that it never used to be available anymore. So now he's getting to the rim and finishing at a rate that's higher than ever before in his career. You look at his shot chart, it's exactly what you want out of an offensive player in today's NBA. Everything's in the paint or from beyond the three-point line. He is tremendously efficient. And the Heat are not looking to trade him. I'll make that clear. But if they were, like, what Tyler Hero's trade value was like a year ago when everybody was debating it during the Damian Lillard stuff. It was like, who wants this guy? An inefficient guy, a sixth man at best, like whatever. Like, that list of teams that could use somebody like Tyler Hero now is long. Like, there are a lot of teams in the NBA who can use a player exactly like Tyler Hero. Like, contending teams. For example, like Oklahoma City. Wouldn't Tyler Hero be a perfect fit? A team that has been struggling making threes consistently all season long. Like, you put Tyler Hero on that roster, getting catch and shoots off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams and spacing the floor 5 out with Chet Holmgren back and healthy at the center. Like, if the Thunder called up Miami right now, and how many picks would they have to give them? 4?
I mean, considering they're kind of a hard team to do that exercise with because they just have so many fucking picks. Right. It's like, it's tricky. I mean, Wes, I think of it this way. I think of Houston. who's been really good this year. And I know they're not the same exact player, but in some ways, I think Houston would love for Reed Shepard to end up where Tyler Hero is.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what you that like little differences here and there, but like that's the archetype of guy you kind of want him to end up as. That guy has a lot of value in this NBA, particularly if you're a team that has either a really good big defending, or B has just really good wing defense to kind of surround a guy like this. I mean, how Minnesota would murder someone to have Tyler Hero right now to just
Yep.
juice what's going on there besides Anthony Edwards. Like, even if the trade off there, even if the fit there is like a little bit wonky, just because him and Ant together, I think would be tough.
Mhm.
You're telling me they wouldn't just like take the scoring and find a way to shoehorn him in? They would, because what he's giving you is one of the most valuable things you can get in the league right now, which is spacing and 3-point efficiency at high volume. That is a cheat code to having a functional NBA offense. Tyler Hero is providing that all on his own right now.
Yeah, so the Heat have the number one rated offense in the league over the last 3 games now. They have climbed all the way to top 10 in offensive rating for the season. This is a team that's finished in the bottom 10 in offensive rating the last 2 seasons, in part because their shot chart was just way over indexed on mid range shots. So Tyler Hero was a big problem. He was a big reason for that. He's become the solution in a lot of ways this year. You've got him and Duncan Robinson starting in that backcourt. You've got Bam starting to shoot threes a little bit more. They've taken down the mid range looks. Like they have talent on this roster. Like they have the offensive talent, and even with Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson being that starting backcourt, like there's going to be obvious defensive concerns. They've held up, with Jimmy and Haywood Highsmith and Bam Adebayo back there. Like they are good enough defensively to get by with Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson in that backcourt. And credit to Tyler and Duncan, like they have been competing defensively. Like they are always going to be, a little. There's going to be limitations with what they can be defensively, but they're playing hard. They're trying. So yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see where the Heat kind of go with this.
Ask you two last Heat things and we'll get out of
Mhm.
here, Wes. Number one, Jaime Jaquez, year two. What's the story been?
Um, Beginning of the season was derailed by injuries. He still hasn't quite gotten his footing. This is a guy who did take quite a few mid-range shots last year. And again, sort of the theme going into the year for Miami was we can't take this many mid-range shots. He's had a hard time finding his place in the offense. His three ball has gone through the toilet, dude. Like I don't even know. I don't think he's making 30% of his 3-pointers this year.
I'm looking at this right now.
And yeah,
And
last time
not
I
as
think
many, not as many minutes when I went back and was looking through his game log.
yes, the
That
injuries
it's just like, yeah, I know it's injuries, but it's
that's
like
been an issue.
it's just he's at 27.8%
Yeah.
from 3 in 18
And
games.
that's really it. I mean, when we talk about Jaime, when that 3-point shot comes around, he'll get more minutes and things will kind of right the ship. But yeah, I mean, he shot 31% from 3-point range at UCLA in college. Like this is not a guy who's known as a good 3-point shooter. It's still the biggest question with him.
Last thing I have to ask: is Kevin Love still in the rotation when the playoffs start in the spring?
I don't know, but I think if you got the Heat to fess up to what they hope would happen, the answer would be no, because Khalil Ware
Yeah,
has taken enough steps in the right direction to the point where he's earned those backup center minutes.
that does. I think that feels right. Love Kevin Love. He definitely has like started to look older. Like like he found a nice reinvigoration when he got to Miami. I think it's like the age curve is. What's funny, I was thinking this after he's obviously not 1-to-1, but I think like the Cavs roster needs like could use like one big reinforcement because you can't really play Tristan Thompson. I'm not saying Kevin Love would be perfect. But there's like a reason they were interested in like Larry Nance in the summer and like
Could we
trying to
interest
trade
you
for
in
him.
one Thomas Bryant?
I'd rather just have Kevin Love for the vibes.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this about Kevin Love. Eric Spoelstra has tried to replace him, and consistently, when push comes to shove, goes back to Kevin Love. Like that guy is doing just enough to stay in the mix. And look, his career arc is remarkable. I don't have to tell you that. Like it's crazy that he's still playing meaningful minutes. His chemistry with Jimmy Butler is great. Like
Yeah.
he finds him on those outlet passes. It's just like those straight up touchdown passes. So
The shooting from three this year is the thing when I looked at the numbers that scared me the most because like maybe that's just a statistical like drop, but if he's not shooting threes, then it's like it becomes harder to like find because he's
yeah,
just not going to score on the inside officially anymore.
Yeah, he started the year in a slump, but I think I don't have the numbers in front of me, but just like thinking off the top of my head, it feels like that's coming around these last few games, like the three balls
Yeah,
going in for him
so
again.
they say last 10 sold 33%
Yeah,
at the box, but it's a 12 game sample, so I don't really know what to
yeah,
do with that.
yeah. He started the year hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, started the year hurt. Yeah, he
Oh, I'm sorry.
was.
That's not right. He did not start the year hurt. He started the year away from the team for personal reasons. He was never injured. That's important.
Yeah.
No, but
So yeah,
he's been good.
yeah. Love Kevin Love forever. Glad to see he's still kicking around. So it's so weird to see him. It's kind of weird seeing him in a uniform. Not gonna lie, but I'm glad he's still around and didn't just like. It's weirder. I'm glad he didn't end up on like the Pelicans or something. You know, it would have been weirder
Right.
if that was the
He
case. Like the
honestly,
Hawks.
if there was not a team like Miami out there, it wouldn't shock me if he had just retired or never agreed to that buyout in the first place. But like considering that the Heat were a legitimate option, that's always an organization he had a lot of respect for. I don't tell you this. He's beloved in that locker room. He's great to talk to as media. He's been
Yep.
great.
Very wry, smart guy. We're gonna end there. I'm Chris Manning. That's Wes Goldberg. Back at you later this week. NBA Cup action coming in hot. We're gonna get you ready for the final next week. We'll break down the full NBA Cup as a whole as it comes to the end of year 2. Thanks again to eBay, BetMGM, and Homage for sponsoring today's show. Back at you later this week. Enjoy the hoops and happy holidays.